So the way I see it is there's this disconnect between what people think resistance looks like and what it actually looks like. There's the Hollywood movie romanticized version. There's the revolutionary fantasy, but that doesn't actually match the real ways that we resist fascism and we successfully restore our democracy. I think especially, I get a lot of folks in my comments who are mostly white men, but are very much into their false belief that the only way to stop the fascists is through violent resistance. And they get real pissy with me when I say that, oh, did you know that nonviolent resistance is more than twice as likely to succeed as violent resistance? That if you engage in violent resistance against the regime, you are more likely to fail for multiple reasons, not the least of which is, like, in the United States of America, sure, okay, yeah, good luck standing up against the US military. Y'all can't even get off your sofas. Y'all can't even go walk immigrants to the courtroom to make sure that ICE doesn't snatch them. But you think you're going to organize some kind of militia that's going to successfully stand up to the military? I'm confused as to how you think that's actually going to happen in real life. Or you are like fantasizing about your guerrilla style warfare. You're in my comments telling other people to go make Molotov cocktails. Again, while you sit on your sofa in a blue state. But y'all have this belief that revolution or that resistance against tyranny looks the way it looks in the movies. You have written a fantasy in your head that doesn't match the real necessary work that must be done, because the real necessary work is not nearly as sexy, right? It's not nearly as eye-catching or appealing. It also doesn't really let you vent your rage in the same way. It's not violent, so it's not as satisfying to folks who are very much indoctrinated in a culture of violent retribution. And like in America, we really are, right? We really believe in violent retribution. Look at our prison system. Look at the way we raise our children. In every state in this country, it's legal to hit your children. In 15 states in this country, it's legal for somebody else to hit your children, especially if they're a teacher or a school administrator. But also, violent resistance is more likely to fail because it turns popular opinion against the resistance movement. Not only will the regime use violent resistance to justify escalation of their authoritarian crackdown and to take away more and more rights more swiftly. And one of the big goals of an effective resistance movement is to do whatever you can to gum up the works, to slow down the roll of the regime, to slow down the rate at which they are moving forward, because that buys us time. I know I've said it before, but slowing them down is actually a victory. We don't expect the courts to save us. We do expect the courts to slow them down. That buys us time to draw people into the movement, to organize, and to be able to get to a point where we have enough people with enough of a framework to carry out the sustained big actions like a general strike that will get the job done. It gives us time to work at eroding the pillars of support under the Trump regime. Buying us time, that is a victory. Slowing them down, that is a victory. With authoritarian takeovers, it is very much a race to the finish. And we are seeing the frantic pace that this regime is moving at now because they know that the American people are opposed to what they're doing. They know how deeply unpopular they are. The polling numbers for the midterms are terrible. They're going to lose if they don't hurry up and take away more and more and more of your rights. Rights away from Black voters, rights away from women voters. If they don't disenfranchise folks, if they don't gerrymander, if they don't cheat, they're going to lose. So these fantasies about violent resistance that we're seeing from folks on the internet who are cool. I haven't seen you doing any of those acts. You're just urging other people to do them from the comfort of your mom's sofa in her living room. I haven't seen y'all doing shit. You're urging other people to. You're urging other people to put their liberty and their bodies on the line. You're asking other people to put themselves in a position where they will be brutalized by the regime, carrying out what you think is your cinematic version of resistance that will only turn popular opinion against the resistance movement. It's actually harming resistance because what we need right now is more and more people to be like, oh yeah, these guys have the right idea. I want to join them. We need a broad-based coalition of diverse people with diverse political opinions, people who are far less radical than you, to come and say, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to stand up. Tell me what to do. If the only people you think are going to be involved in resistance are people that are willing to go commit crimes, again, whatever your 2A fantasy is, then all you're doing is living in a fantasy and you're not actually building a resistance at all. And your rhetoric is harming that resistance. So I really appreciated this comment. Sorry, it took me 5 minutes to get around to reading it. I was thinking this morning about some discourse I've seen around men who say they die for their wives but won't do the dishes. Essentially, it's easy to say you'll do something that is unlikely to be asked of you. It's far harder to commit to doing the small and rather mundane tasks that won't earn you any spot in the limelight, that won't gratify your own ego, that won't fulfill your desire to enact violence and let you get your rage out, but instead are really about like discipline, small, sustained, repeated acts of systematically undercutting the regime. That's harder to get people to want to do. It's not sexy work. The most effective resistance work is not sexy. It doesn't let you vent your rage. And again, just like guys who are like, I'll die for my wife, but you know what? I won't do the dishes for her. Y'all, frankly, dumbasses saying we need to take up arms against the government with no plan or strategy or just nothing behind it except that rhetoric of like, oh yeah, I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm going to be one of the resistance fighters. I'm fucking William Wallace. No, you're fucking not. No, you're not. Leaving comments on the internet while other people are doing the things that you consider ineffective because they're not attractive or extreme enough. You fail to understand that it's very much death by 1,000 cuts. You fail to understand it is regular people who are taking their chisels to the pillars of support. You fail to understand the level at which a lot of this is bureaucratic. A lot of this is just making small choices in your daily life to refuse to comply, to speak up, to show up for the most vulnerable. That's not going to get your name in lights or splashed across the headlines, but it's going to stop the fascists. It's regular, ordinary people who are doing the very mundane work. Everybody wants to be in the revolution, but nobody wants to do the dishes. There's a reason there's that saying. If you actually want to stop the regime, you need to join a grassroots group like Indivisible, like Surge, like 5051. Just Google grassroots pro-democracy group and the name of your city or town. And then you have to think about every day, how can I find small ways to be non-compliant with this regime? Are there ways in my everyday life, as small and insignificant, as anonymous as I will be, carrying out these small little acts? What can I do? What kind of mindset can I have? I am looking at the world right now. I'm looking at all of my choices through a lens of resistance, through a lens of I will not comply with fascism, and then act accordingly. That's not sexy. That's not going to get you noticed by anybody. You're going to go about your life doing the same things as tens of millions of other people. Acts that take a lot of courage, but do not get a lot of notoriety. I just think this is such a great perspective. We have so many folks online right now. I don't know how many of them are in real life, but they're real vocal online, who seem to think that it's these big, dramatic, violent acts that are somehow magically going to stop this. They don't bother to think through. They don't bother to learn the lessons of history. They have a fantasy they have written in their heads, which seems far more glorious. A fantasy they're not going to act it out in real life, and they know that nobody's really going to ask that of them. Otherwise, we would be seeing it. Where are all y'all? Where are all of y'all accelerationists who said you shouldn't vote for Kamala, and if Donald Trump gets elected, it will bring about the downfall of the empire and it will give us a chance to sweep in and have our communist revolution? Where are you? Where are you? You're still making your think pieces, still blaming Kamala, and doing fuck all to stop the fascists who are trying to seize control of this country. Get to work. You want to save democracy? You want to save the most vulnerable? You say you really care about stopping ethnic cleansings and genocides? Do you really care about stopping the Holocaust that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have begun, that has already killed 330,000 people and will kill 14 million? You really care about that? Get to fucking work doing the dishes.